Hey guys, I'm Dan Rodgers with the Key Leadership Inc. and I'm excited about our influencer interview for this week. We're going to talk with my good friend Josh Belk. Stick around for just a few minutes and we'll get started. Hey guys, I'm here with my good friend Josh Belk, and Josh Belk is a tax and planning consultant working with small businesses and large businesses, helping them within their financial structure and planning their businesses out. And I'm really excited about this conversation we get to have today. And Josh, you talked a little bit about, you often speak about fractional CFO, and tell us about what that is real briefly, and then we'll get into our principles.
Sure. The fractional CFO, it is a relatively more recent concept, so it's not something that's been around for a great number of years, although maybe some of the essential baseline principles have been there as far as bringing in somebody from the outside to try to take a look at your business in a little bit of a different way. Many times business owners, they'll have an accountant that they work with, they'll bring in business consultants, but a lot of times businesses, when they get to a certain point of scale, they need to bring an accountant in, and most of the time they are CPAs, or they may just be just a really high level or kind of specialized, especially in the area of finance, to be able to come in and provide some help for them in a little bit different way than they would usually see generally from a business consultant. And this can include everything from just an analysis of the accounting system that's in place, maybe doing a technology analysis as far as the technology they have in place as far as to track their finances. But I think most importantly, and the greatest value that they bring, is to come in and be able to identify the KPIs, the key performance indicators, or the metrics that a business needs to be able to kind of look at their day-to-day and see what's going on, find out what areas of their business is working, what areas of their business is not working, and then try to identify key areas that they really need to work on to be able to take their business to the next level and to make it more profitable.
Yeah, and that sounds like it's important that you found your niche in being a CFO, an outside source as a CFO for different companies. Is that kind of how that lines up with you?
Yeah, well, right now, at least in our firm, and I think for many, there are businesses out there that's what they specialize in. For us, at this point, it's really becoming more of a value add, and it's also helping us get in the door with potential new clients to be able to provide more services to them. So it is something that we really try to, and sometimes wear almost two hats. So you have the tax and compliance end, where I have a team in my office, and they really help as far as on the day-to-day end, and then where that we're also able to step in, where I'm able to step in and help the business owner in this area, which kind of really is outside of what a lot of times what your normal accountant would do, which is just prepare tax returns, generate financial statements, maybe do some business consulting type work, maybe some structural analysis, where we're able to step in and offer a broader service to our client and try to bring more value to them as well.
Now, you also tell there's a threshold you typically work with when it comes to someone needing your services as a fractional CFO. What is the typical threshold of financials that they would need to have if they want to do this?
Sure. So kind of another area that a fractional CFO generally helps in is with the outside relationships. So whether they're trying to find institutional funding, for example, so they're trying to work with a banker, maybe they have some issues with the board, maybe they're trying to get some VC money, whatever the case may be. And so kind of taking a look at everything that's involved there. Most of the time, once a business hits generally about $500,000 in net revenue and up, they're usually that's at the point that the business has reached a level to where they can receive the most value as far as to bring a fractional CFO in.
Because it's a great value to add, I would imagine. I'm not at $1 million company yet, but I would imagine when you start reaching that threshold, it would be good for them to be able to reach out to you and know that they're going to get a lot of value from someone that is a great consultant that's going to bring outside sources and also benefit with your CPA team. Is that right? And
right.
Then,
right.
Yeah, and then add value as a CFO and finding funding to finance their business.
Well, that's our hope, and I think that's true. Hopefully, with any business, that they're out there trying to bring value to their clients and find ways that they can bring value to their client because when you're bringing value to your clients, it's a win for them. It's a win for you because you're bringing what they need, and then then they're obviously in return they're helping you as well. So
that leads me to the principles that we wanted to talk about.
Sure.
So there's three different principles that you mentioned that you grow your business by that have been foundational in your business, and let's talk about that first one.
Well, I think the three principles that I kind of look at not just apply to business, but also to life as well. So when I take a look at these, things, first of all is the principle of having a cabinet of advisors. In everything that I try to do in life is I really try to take a look at Scripture and what does Scripture have to say. And in the book of Proverbs, we find this principle as far as in a multitude of counselors there is safety. And it's kind of the second half of a verse, and the first half of the verse talks about it without counsel that we end up falling, that people end up falling, and the concept of failure there. And then we see in the second half of the verse where we can find success, and that comes in a multitude of counselors. In the old line that's been there for a number of years, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. You probably heard that line, as probably for many of you as listeners have as well. And there's a lot of truth to that. We kind of take a look at who do we spend the most time with, and we kind of become the average of those people that we spend our time with. And I think for all of us, we need to find advisors, have advisors in our life that are at where we want to be, and and lean on them and glean from them the knowledge that they have. And so having that multitude of counselors, and I know for myself, I try to be that sometimes for people, but I know that there are key people in my life that I go to,
right,
and beyond just business. So a lot of times we can hire sometimes those areas in business that we're weak in, and that we need help in. And so maybe somebody would go and they would hire an accountant to come in and help them if they have tax issues, whatever the case may be.
So you mentioned the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. I remember one of the big shifts I had in my life was when I realized this principle of stop taking financial advice from broke people. And for me, I was going through a workbook on a financial program, and it said to write down a list of the 5 people that you typically get advice from for finances, and then check their results, and then cross off the people that don't have the results you want to have in your life. And it was amazing. I crossed off like 4 people on that list just because I realized I was getting bad advice from broke people. I was going to, and I realized my paycheck was the average of the 5 people I was hanging around. And I'm real thankful for that advice of picking a multitude of counselors. Tell me more about when you pick a mentor. How do you determine who that mentor? What principles do you use or steps do you use to find a good mentor?
Well, I think kind of taking a step back. I think for every person, both in their business and in their personal life, they need to identify, number one, what are their core values. And it's kind of one of those things, and when you're looking for a mentor, do their core values align with your core values? And so are they looking for many of the same things out of life that you're looking for out of life? And what I mean by that is I don't want to have a counselor in my life that family isn't a priority to them. Okay, that relationships isn't a priority to them. So a counselor that, if I'm looking at and analyzing, and their whole drive in life is just to have more, and just to basically just have for themselves, that's not the type of person I want to align myself with. And so I want to align myself with somebody who has the same common core values. And for a lot of people, I like asking, kind of when I first meet them and get to know them a little bit, it's a question I will ask of them. Hey, what are your core values? And they should be able to rattle them off quickly to you and understand, okay, these are my core values. And I usually find that people that are successful and find a lot of fulfillment in their own life, they understand what those core values are. So understanding, number one, you need to have a vision plan. You need to understand your mission statement. You need to understand your why, your purpose, and then your core values. And then you need to find those advisors, those mentors in your life that have similar types of core values, similar types of a similar vision, a similar mission, and that way you can kind of eventually try to get to the same place together.
And I would agree. You said the word similar. They don't have to be perfect.
No,
they just need to be similar. That's a key. I remember someone teaching me that not too long ago, that it's important. You don't look for a perfect person. You look for a similar person. And not everything they do is going to be 100% perfect, but something they do you can copy and we can learn from and apply the principles. So I'm excited about principle number 2 that you want to talk about. So you talked about Zig Ziglar. Tell me,
sure.
I love that statement.
Yeah, so the Zig Ziglar quote, and I'm going to kind of read it here, but it said, you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want, right? And so kind of taking the principle, both in life and in business, to try to approach it with a servant's heart, and to bring value. And so if you're approaching all of your relationship that way, and it's just beyond the customer that you're trying to serve, but also your employees, okay, and in your personal life, your family, So every day, I hope that I bring some sort of value to my family. I hope that every day I bring some sort of value to my team. One thing I know in my office I want to do, I want to be able to, and whether it's whether it's my kind of the right hand man in my office that helps me and kind of almost oversees the day to day in my office, and I want to have that dialogue every day of what can I do to help you. And I don't want to be that king in my office or that king in my home that I'm going to sit there on a throne and dictate. No, I'd rather be the person that's on the other side and trying to help. And there's a real synergy that comes to play there. So first of all, looking to serve, looking to bring value, and if I'm doing that for enough people, okay, they're going to appreciate that value. I'm going to be able to, in many ways, receive compensation. Sometimes that compensation isn't just dollars in the piggy bank, so to speak. Okay, but value of relationships, value of network, being able to get you into rooms that you need to be able to take your business to the next level, get you connected many times with people maybe that you need help in your personal life. And so value can come in different ways. But if you're delivering value, and you approach it with a servant's heart, you're going to see in return a lot of value, and people also who are going to also want to help you get to the next level in your business and in your personal life. That
is so true. I think of the 5 love languages of receiving gifts. Not everybody has that as their priority. So some people it's hard to give, and some people it's not easy for them to want to give and give and give. But how do you develop that when you don't have that attitude of like, I really want to give, but I don't know how to give, I'm not good at it? How do you develop that heart that you talked about?
As far as developing it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly, it's like, some sort of a formula, and how do I, it's kind of one of those things that, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of, for myself, I really take a look at scriptural principles. And if I'm there and if I'm seeking after the heart of Christ, for example, that's going to come naturally because we see that in Him. So it's really on what we're pursuing. So if we're pursuing a greedy lifestyle, I'm never going to have that heart. I'm always going to be looking at others for what can they give to me. But if I'm looking like Christ did, as far as having a servant's heart, and I want to serve first, I want to love first, then I think there naturally as a byproduct, I will have that servant's heart. That's
what I was looking for, was the answer of following the scriptural principles of the heart of Christ. He came to give. He came not to seek and to save that which was lost. He came for all these reasons. He didn't come anything for himself. And so living a life like that as a human is really tough, and it's tough to want to do that, but it's definitely more rewarding. And,
especially when we've been hurt. So we go and we try to help somebody, and we in turn end up getting hurt. And then sometimes it's like we want to kind of pull back, and the next time we don't want to try to help, and so we have to kind of reach a level of maturity of understanding. Not everybody that we try to help is going to return that for us. So to always have that mindset of to give first, and if we don't ever ever receive anything in return, fine. Okay, and just try to go out there, serve as many people as we can, bring as much value as we can, and try to help as many people as we can.
I'm so thankful you said that. One man was teaching me several years ago of the idea of it doesn't matter how, it's not up to them, it's not up to you to determine how they use what you give. It's up to you just to give, and that's the principle.
That's good.
Putting money in the offering plate, or putting it in a homeless man's hand, wherever it may be, or giving is important. Just it's your job to give it. It's his job to know how to use it properly and be a steward of it, and so that's important. I love that principle. So Zig Ziglar is a great guy. Have you followed him quite a bit? And
actually, my dad, he passed away about 5 years ago. He loved listening to his recordings.
Okay.
And I didn't follow him all that much really when my dad was still living. But when he passed away, I found he had his CDs in his car, and I found out he listened to these things all the time. And as I listened to it, I remember my dad used to quote a lot of it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is where he got this from. And so now, especially on long trips, I'll plug in the CDs and I'll listen to them. So it's a lot of value there that he brings.
That leads to the last principle of never stop learning you talked about. And so let's talk about that briefly.
Sure. And so I have these nevers, which is kind of a negative way of approaching it. So maybe kind of flipping it on its head. But to never stop learning, or the alternative, always be learning. So every day we should be spending some time. Of course, our day should consist of time in the Word, or the relationship with the Lord, which should be primary in our lives. So we're spending time in the Word, and that, of course, we're reading, we're learning there, but also be spending time outside of that as well, learning, especially when we talk about business. Always be improving in your business. So every day be learning, every day be implementing, taking those things that you've learned. So whether it's a scriptural principle that you picked up in your reading that day, something you picked up somewhere, and implement it. To be pushing yourself forward, to become a better person in your business, a better person in your home, a better person in the community in which you serve. So always be learning, always be implementing, and I like this one too. Always be dreaming. Always kind of be kind of hey. You know, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? And I love Walt Disney, and going to be in actually flying to Florida a little bit later on today. I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and the hardest thing for me to do when I was there was not drive over to Disney World. But one thing that kind of really he did was kind of that word dream. You know, and he loved that word, and he really kind of infused that. And says, always be dreaming, always be kind of, hey, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? And who can I bring along with me on the journey? Yeah,
that's huge to be talking about learning and dreaming. And it's so neat. Sometimes we starts out knowledge when we open the book and read it, but when we find or a book or the Bible or whatever it may be, we open it and read it. That's knowledge, but applying it is the wisdom part. Right. And so understanding that principle is powerful. I really enjoyed this conversation today, Josh. And I've been excited about it. I want you to make sure you reach out to Josh and talk to him. And what a great opportunity it's been to interview Josh for our influencer interview for this week.